Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldandblack.com, live in Mackey Arena, following Purdue's 71-63 loss to Rutgers in overtime. I would tell you this is our last wrap video in Mackey Arena this season, but I can't tell you that because the reality of Purdue's situation obviously looks like it's the NIT. I assume Purdue will play in the NIT. I don't see why they wouldn't. I assume Purdue will get home games. I can't claim to be an expert on NIT selection process or site selection, anything like that, but that's Purdue's reality right now. I've been quoting a lot of movies in these rap videos lately. The thing that comes to mind here for me is the scene in Major League where the Cleveland Indians are made aware of the reality of their situation. Tom Berenger, the catcher, stands up and says, well, I guess there's only one thing left to do then. And Corbin Burnson, the narcissistic third baseman, undergoing the midlife crisis, says, what's that? And Tom Berenger says, guess we got to win the whole thing. And that's kind of where Purdue is. I mean, you know, they had a chance to play themselves into the NCAA tournament here these last couple weeks, and ironically, or strangely, not to misuse the word ironically, won 3 out of 5 to finish the season on the road, lost 3 out of 4 at home. And that's what's got to be frustrating about this finish for Purdue, was playing this way at home, or the results being what they were at home. This Big Ten this year, obviously everyone's almost even. I think there's 2 doormats in the Big Ten this year, and yes, I'm aware Purdue lost to one of them. Thank you. There's only 2 doormats in the Big Ten this year. I think Purdue had a team this year where if you had scheduled yourself to 7 wins in November like Indiana did, if you had a weaker Big Ten where maybe you can get a couple more wins without playing great basketball, I think that you'd be in a much different spot than you were in. But that wasn't Purdue's reality. This season, Mackey Arena was not a difference maker for Purdue for whatever reason late in the season. I think that was a good deal of Purdue's comfort level moving into kind of winning season here, where they had the chance to get into the tournament. When you figure you have a bunch of home games, you figure you're going to get more than you're going to lose. A lot more. You're going to get a lot more than you're going to lose. Didn't happen. Purdue lost to Penn State, relatively one-sided fashion, lost to Michigan in relatively one-sided fashion. Not what Purdue's used to. Beat Indiana, and then comes down here and loses a toss-up, obviously, to Rutgers. But again, all of these teams are very similar. I'm not sure anybody is decidedly better than anybody else. I think there's going to be teams going to the NCAA tournament who Purdue is better than. I think Wisconsin's one of them, and they're sharing the Big Ten title. I think Indiana obviously is going to go to the NCAA tournament. I think Purdue's better than them. I think Iowa's going to the NCAA tournament. Obviously, Purdue's better than them. The head-to-head results, I think, on those 3 teams, you're 5-6 against those teams total, and you lost a nail-biter in Madison, basically. But that's the nature of the Big Ten this year. Everybody was equal. Very little margin for error. And the more mature teams, I guess, or the more consistent teams, I guess, just kind of found ways. The team that could find ways to win more had an advantage in this year's Big Ten. And I just don't think, I'm not writing the postscript to Purdue's season here by any means, but I just don't know if Purdue was ready to do that. I don't think they were mature enough necessarily to win games that, they needed to win to be in a better position than they sit here today. I think they weren't mature enough to start games better on the road. Had you might have gotten a game or 2 that you didn't get. I don't know if they were mature enough to handle adversity on their home floor necessarily when they got punched in the face by Illinois. When they had their chest stepped on by Illinois, when Penn State makes all those threes early, when Michigan plays well really early on. I don't know if they necessarily had the buoyancy to them to find something more in themselves to punch back. This place has always been a place that has made Purdue something much better than it ordinarily would be. You did not see that in the last couple of weeks. For whatever reason, I don't know. Obviously, this has been a very limited Purdue team all season long. I think a lot goes into that, all of which we've already talked about 1,000 times this season. But I do think part of it was played out in the last 4 minutes of regulation and in overtime in this game, because Rutgers has ballers, man. They have guys, however you want to define ballers. Geo Baker is that definition. And you give him the ball, you get out of the way, let him make plays, he will make those plays. That's what he did. He single-handedly beat Purdue. if you ask me. I know he only made one field goal in overtime, but in the end of regulation, he single-handedly got Rutgers to overtime. Had Purdue won this game, they would have stolen it, because I think that Rutgers made all the winning plays beforehand. I think Rutgers arguably was the better team all game long, not by a wide margin, but I do think they were better. Purdue doesn't have that guy in those big moments where you just you put the ball in his hands and you let him make a play. Purdue made big plays in this game, but it's systematic stuff. You have to run Stefanovic off 3 screens to get him open. A lot can go wrong, a lot can go right, but a lot can go wrong. I know Eric Hunter made some really big plays, and it needs to be said that I know he missed free throws that would have probably won this game, but they're not in that position without him. He did some really positive things, obviously, in the final 30 seconds of regulation. But you know what I'm talking about when you see it. Last year, stuff goes sideways. Carson Edwards getting a shot. The end of Indiana in Bloomington, that awful, awful game. Get it to Carson. He will get a shot up. He gets a shot up. He misses it, but Matt Harms is there for the tip-in. Ryan Klein, into the Tennessee game, put the ball in his hands, let him dribble for a half an hour, and then make a 3 over what's-his-face? The forward, Grant Williams, the really good forward, Grant Williams. I was thinking Admiral Schofield for a second. Purdue does not have that guy right now. Now, you lost 2 of those guys from last year's team. We've been through this over and over again. Carson Edwards should have gone to the NBA. If he doesn't, you're covered. Ryan Klein redshirts, you're covered. Next year, all of these guys will be juniors or sophomores. Eric Hunter, Stefanovic will be juniors. Isaiah Thompson will be a sophomore. You have a whole bunch of guys, too. Brandon Newman coming out of redshirt. Jaden Ivey, who's a stud, coming in. Ethan Morton, who's a stud, coming in. You're not beholden to all the same guys either. So you hope the guys you have now will grow into something more, or some of these other guys will come in and maybe show they can be that guy right away. You don't know, but you do have a lot of options. You do have the reasonable presumption that these guys are going to grow into really good players. Purdue has good guards, good young guards. I just don't know if they're ready to carry a team yet. Geo Baker is a guy who can carry a team, as he clearly showed tonight. Purdue's other issue, as we've talked about over and over again, is that the guys who should be carrying this team are the posts, Travion Williams and Matt Harms. That is the concentration of strength on this roster. That was the concentration of strength coming into this season. That's what Purdue is going to build around and let everybody else grow into place around them. It hasn't happened because, again, like the Big Ten, where everyone's good, almost everyone's good, almost everyone has a really good big guy too. So when your big guys are your best players, but Rutgers shows up and has Miles Johnson, who you're probably tired of hearing me talk about. I just love him. I think he's really good. That takes away your strength. And when you don't have a strength otherwise, and to be fair, Travion Williams is 3 of 7. Matt Harms is 3 of 7 as well. That's not all because of Miles Johnson. I'm just saying this is the sort of game where your strengths can kind of get taken away a little bit. Miles Johnson had a lot to do with that. But those guys are 2 really good college players. They absolutely are. It's not as easy to stand out when you're playing against other really, really good college players at your position every single night, especially at a position that's dependent on everyone else to get you involved. But that's left Purdue kind of lacking, a foundation in a lot of ways. And when you don't have that, and maybe you're not quite mature enough to overcome it all the time, when you're not mature enough to maybe handle difficult situations all the time, you're inconsistent. And inconsistency, this was not the year to be inconsistent in the Big Ten. This was a Big Ten that takes inconsistency and immaturity, eats it, spits it out, whatever. It makes you pay for it. And that's exactly what happened to Purdue this Big Ten season. That's why I think, too, had Purdue won this game and goes 10-10 in the Big Ten, that would have been a hell of a deal. Given what Purdue showed itself to be throughout the majority of this season, to still go 10-10 in the best league in the country, I think would have been, something meaningful, shall we say. But obviously that's not going to happen unless Purdue wins the Big Ten tournament. Well, Purdue's not going to go 10-10 in the regular season. Purdue's not going to go to the NCAA tournament, most likely, unless it wins the Big Ten tournament. Again, I do think Purdue is all set up to kind of be the poster boy for what NCAA tournament selection is nowadays. A 10-10 record in the best conference in the league. with some really good wins, a really good road win, two really good road wins later in the year at Indiana and Iowa. You know, the whole Super Bowl setup, I think, could have given the selection committee something to think about long and hard had Purdue been able to finish the regular season like 18-16. I know that's counterintuitive to everything people think about NCAA tournament selection, past president, whatever it may be, past precedent. But I think this is a new era we're living in, and I think 18-16 would have given the NCAA tournament selection committee, once the human element got involved, something to think really long and hard about. It's a moot point now. Purdue loses to Rutgers. Purdue isn't going to go any better than you can't win any more than 19 games now. And if you do, you're in anyway because you've won the Big Ten tournament. So obviously this was not the way Purdue seniors wanted to go out. Just wanted to make mention of them real quick. Obviously this is a non-traditional senior class, but that's kind of college basketball nowadays, where you lose guys, you get guys on the fly, and your class looks a lot different after year 4 than it did at the start of year 1. In 2016, only Carson Edwards signed a scholarship. He obviously left early for the NBA, a good thing for the program, the right decision for him, obviously. Tommy Luce came in with him as a walk-on. Tommy Luce is the only guy left. Evan Boudreau somewhere along the line comes in. Jahad Proctor somewhere along the line comes in. Both of those guys obviously weren't here very long. Obviously were never stars. But I think the fact both of them really persevered through a lot of adversity, both of them fell out of Purdue's playing rotation, stuck with it, rebounded enough, in Evan Boudreau's case literally, to play their best basketball at a time of the season that really gave Purdue a chance to get in the NCAA tournament when they were really in a tough spot. I think set a really good example for everybody else, and it's something people probably ought to appreciate. They all seem like really good people. I know you always say nice things about the seniors on senior day, but I won't if I don't believe it. So I think all three of those guys have been pretty positive influences for Purdue basketball. Evan Boudreau and Jahad Proctor helped Purdue win some games. Everyone loves Tommy Luce, obviously, for good reason. Obviously, fans love two things. They love the star player, and they love the adorable little white walk-on. When you combine those two things, you get Robbie Hummel. But obviously, Tommy Luce is kind of the epitome of the adorable little white walk-on, and just a guy that I think people see themselves in. I think every fan sitting in Mackey Arena who was 5'8", 140 pounds as a high school senior probably looks at Tommy Luce and says, damn, that's pretty cool. Or every mom or dad in the crowd whose kids are never going to be more than 5'8", 140, whatever it may be, never great basketball players, whatever it may be, probably look at Tommy Luce and say, damn, that's pretty cool. And the fact people have had fun with him, college basketball is supposed to be a fun game. The fact he's brought some fun to Mackey Arena, I think is always a really cool thing. So those three guys, in their own different ways, I'm sure will be missed by the program. Again, good people, good players, good influences, good teammates by everything I've ever gathered. So it's just unfortunate, for them to go out like this. It's really sad to see seniors lose on senior day. I just saw it at Iowa. Just saw it again here at Purdue. It's unnatural, and it's cruel. It's unfortunate. You wish everybody could win on their senior day, go out happy, but college basketball is not a fair game in that sense. And obviously, Rutgers makes a couple more plays than Purdue did at the end of this game, and now Rutgers is headed to the NCAA tournament, and Purdue is probably headed to the NIT, and that's just kind of the reality of its situation. So, with all that being said, this is Brian Neubert from goldandblack.com. Why did I end it that way? With all that being said, I have no idea. Once again, from Purdue 71-68, overtime loss to Rutgers. Probably not for the last time here in Mackey Arena this season. This is Brian Neubert from goldandblack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials. However you process our materials, I always skip over a syllable in process. We'll talk to you again next week from Bankers Life Fieldhouse at the Big Ten Tournament, where, again, the Cleveland Indians have to go beat the Yankees. Have a good rest of your weekend, everybody.